Hello NPL fans and welcome back to the major power rankings. We are already in week 5 and the season is is shaping up pretty nicely. Of course, this week again I'm not alone. I'm with my lovely co-host Turbo.
Oh, so kind, so kind.
So we will just hop straight into our weekly recap segment. So the first match this week was the Gotham City Golux versus the Bayern Munich. So the Bayern Munich changed up the team quite a bit, but still it was not really a match for the Gotham City Golux. I think Rob had just some really nice prep. I think keeping Hitmonlee in the back was definitely really helpful because it cleaned up late game. Also Thunderous picking up 3 kills was pretty nice for Rob. And I think Shadi has just has a little bit to adjust to his team, but also I think Amon that did not get any kills, I believe. Oh no, got 1 kill and was kind of the star of the show was the Audino, I think. Due to some misprep on Shadi, Audino could freely throw off Toxics, and that hurt Shadi's team quite so much, and that led to the inevitable sweep of the Lee at the end.
Coming into game 2 this week, and it's my game of the week. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Verd came up with some awesome prep this week. The 5-spin Vanguard trap again, which would have been his Jolt's main check to the Mega Beedrill, which would have done a lot of work for Verd's team. Unfortunately, missing the early fire spin on turn, I believe it was 2, which really sucked. But they played out, and it came to a close 1-0 victory with the 5 kills. We'll talk about this game a little closer when we talk about the individual players, because it is a hell of a game.
Yeah, for sure. So one other really close game, I think this week, there were a lot of close games actually, was the Phoenix Suncons versus the Portland Timbers. So unfortunately, as you all know, this was the last match played by Toki. He has unfortunately to drop out due to some personal reasons. And as you saw, it was really a match between Mega Mawal on the one hand and Raiko on the other hand. And mainly Toke's whole team was focused around that Mega Mawal. He had some trick room options. He had Zime, Mento, Latios. So he's really trying to go for that Mega Mawal. Like clean up or just letting it get all the kills. But it was a tough spot for Cheese to be in, but he eventually did pull out, and we will go over it more in the power rankings.
Now, into game, the next game this weekend is Abe versus Trev. Now, Abe, it came over a pretty hard matchup considering Trev had some defensive counters to his team. Although the Mega Sizzle getting 3 kills against the team with a Volcarona and a Silver Valley Steel, 2 pretty solid. So that's a really good play around the counters there on Abe's part, getting a solid 1-0 victory, a very close game as well.
Yeah, so moving on was the game of the FC Poplio versus the Baltimore Braviary. So I believe this was the first win of the FC Poplio, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Yes, that was in a pretty convincing way. He saw that the Baltimore Braviaries lacked a dog type, so what he bring? He brought like a dual dance, still bulky-ish Mew with only Psychic as its only coverage moves. Also had an Immunium Z, I believe, and yeah, that just got a whopping 3 kills and was also able to clean up in the late game, because when some of the fat was broken on the Braviaries, because they brought a lot of bulk, this Mew set could put in a lot of work actually.
And then we come into the next game this week with our man Matty Brolick finally getting a win after a couple of iffy weeks on his part. A big 4-0 win against Mr. Mercury. Now, Matty brought what I said his draft could do all the way back post-draft power rankings, where he used the different speed tiers to his massive advantage, passing speed into Blastoise with Scolipede, yet also bringing in some slow stuff and a bit of trick room offense with the Hoopy U as well. Scarf Crook at the end of the game was cleaned up, helped clean up Merc's team because of the fact that Merc sacked some things that he perhaps shouldn't have sacked to stop that from happening. So it was a big 4-0 win for the restaurants this week.
Yeah, so then we move into the Phoenix Sunflowers versus the Tampa Bay Luxrays, which was a pretty close game, but also a pretty nice game to watch. Definitely one of the matches of the week for me, and I think it really came down to the Sunflowers having some fantastic prep. As you can see, Clefable picking up 4 kills, but what was he? He was a Calm Mind. Clefable. He was a bit defensive, but he still had that live op attached, and that live op just gave that little bit of extra damage that got some clutch kills for him. And because the Luxrays did not play around that correctly, it led to the win of Riz.
And the final game this week, the first, I believe, 6-0 of the season. I believe it's the first 6-0 of the season. I believe it's been a 6-0. It was a 6-0. And who else did it come from? Gypsy King takes a 6-0 over Razor. Razor played a little bit passive this game, setting up spikes in front of Celestina, which then set up in his face and proceeded to just absolutely fist his team. Gypsy took the win graciously as well. Credit to him. Unfortunately, Razor, it happens to everyone, and it happened to you this week. That's all.
For sure. So now moving right into our power rankings. So as you will notice, and I think this is pretty fair, as we are at the halfway point of the season. With week 5, the power ranks are looking more and more similar. So at the bottom we both have the Ported Timbers, who unfortunately have to leave us and will be replaced by our new coach Esther. And yes, he will begin at the very bottom, but we definitely think he can make it up. But White is Stoke for me, at least at the last place. I think he played it pretty nicely. I think it was really great to see him focus so much on Megamawa, because I think his whole team was kind of centered around it. But in the end, a miss EV, I believe he said, on the Slowbro hurt him pretty much. He thought he could live a hit with Slowbro, set up the trick room, and then the Megamawa in the back could clean up. But Slowbro just died to Raiko and he lost the game pretty much. And also, I think a couple turns earlier, Mungus was in on Megamawa. It had the tailwind was up on G's side. So Cheese was able to get a spore. Luckily Megamawa woke up 1 or 2 turns later, but if he did not wake up 1 turn after, then he could have just lost his Megamawa. So I did not really get why he would allow his Megamawa to be put to sleep while it was his win con, obviously. So that's what's it.
Wow, he did a job summing that game up. All I can really say is I think Toad is at the bottom of both of us, considering how good his draft was and considering how not great his performance this season. Okay, I understand he's probably not having fun with the game, and that makes a lot of sense, and sometimes that does affect performance. Positives, Asta's coming in, and he's going to do a good performance this season. Hopefully bring it back for the Timbers, or his brand, his own team name. Hopefully he can bring that back and hopefully climb up power rankings and prove what he can do in majors for the second time as a replacement coach. But next up, we both have number 15, the Chicago Bewares. Now, you talked a little bit about the Portland Timbers for quite a bit, so I'll just briefly throw in what I think of Razor. Obviously, you've got to take the 6-0 on the chin. It happens sometimes. I think Razor just did not play with the... I think if you looked at his team at Team 3-3, he should have seen that and gone, if that's an offensive Celestia, that proves a massive problem to my team. And therefore you should not be giving it any opportunity to set itself up. And I think that's what he did there. He played into Gypsy's hands. He let Gypsy unfold his game plan, which maybe the Celestia was a late game sweeper in Gypsy's mind. Yet Gypsy managed to get set up really early in the game and just tear through his team. So I think he played a little too passively in the open game, and you can't be doing that, because you'll get punished.
Yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up. Well, he had such an offensive team, was one mon that was not offensive, and Gypsy saw the opportunity and Razor did not act accordingly. Also, one weird thing I want to point out is that Demienzo was actually Scarf and was able to outspeed Celestial even at +2, potentially putting it in range of some priority on his team. So I was really wondering, I did not think Razor went over it. If he had actually was able to kill off Celesteela, if he knew that the Scarf Demienzo actually outsped. That was the only thing. I think the other things you pretty summed up pretty nicely.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. Now, jump into your number 13, because this is where it's... Oh, number 14, we both have the same. You can talk about Shadi for a bit. Yeah,
so Shadi, again this week, I think after 2 weeks where he had some pretty nice wins, he unfortunately lost this week again. As I mentioned, he changed the team a little bit, and I think when watching his side, I definitely recommend, if you don't have already have, watch both sides, of course. But he had some great ideas, and maybe a little bit funkier with his prep and also just in the match itself. But he did not act accordingly. He did not prep accordingly, and I think those little things really got to him because Audino spreading toxics everywhere was just slowly weakening down his team. And then with like Thunderous and Hitmonlee in the back, they were like bound to grab those kills at the end. But if he had some prep like Heal Battle Olamon or just Facade on the Mega Kang, for example, so little things like that could have definitely helped him, I feel. And now unfortunately all the toxic damage really racked up and just destroyed his team from the inside out. I think I will just move into my number 13.
I just dropped out there slightly there. I forgot how to unmute myself, so I had to come in and come out again. That's ever the profession. So yeah, you just mentioned a lot about Shadi there. You did an excellent job covering the fact that my printer was going off and making a terrible noise in the background. I thought about you guys and muted my mic. So Shadi, Shadi definitely, I think he over-prepped for Primarina quite a bit. He didn't check, he had his team was sort of, when you focus so much on a mon that you think is going to do your team considerably, and then you leave yourself open for other mons to just sort of break down. Rob played an excellent game. The Hitmonlee in the back, again, as you said in the team preview, was an excellent bring, considering Shadi is fighting resist. I'm not the best considering I need a green and a Latias, but that is pretty much it. You can jump into your number 13 now, which is David.
Yeah, so David, he got his first win, and still, I think every week for him, it's just so far away are the playoffs, and I get it, he's a solid player, but still 1-4, not his team, and like this was a really solid game, and I really liked his prep, especially that new set. I think you really saw the opportunity for it, and also sub SD saw like Garchomp was pretty nice, Specs Houndoom, like he really got some nice sets, and just once he got like broke down like Moxie's bulk, because he brought a lot of bulk, it was like he was able to just straight out win the game. I feel he played a really solid game, but he's just not quite there yet. I think if he gets a couple of more wins, he will just steadily move up.
That's completely fair enough. Now, my number 13, because I have David a little bit higher for my own reasons, is the Los Angeles Retro Rams. Now, he did come over a great win against Merc this week with his team, and his prep was very, very good. Again, I said for the people last week, I want to see consistently seeing Matty. He's got to go out and win the next week for me to keep raising him up, because, okay, it's fine getting one win on the bounce here and there. We know that Matty's a really good player, but can he do it consistently? That is my focus. I said this last week. I'm going to maintain it for different coaches. Matty needs to be consistent from now on with his team.
Yeah, for sure. And now moving into our number 12, which actually is again the same team, and that's Merc with the San Francisco Red Giants. So Merc is again a pretty up and down season like last season. He's now 2-3, and I think that's not really a spot Merc is used to from his other league experience. But I think against Maddie, like the matchup was not great, but I think overall in the matches he made some small misplays, like he went to counter the speed pass into Mega Blasters with his Zapdos, but he knew that also meant Gardevoir could take it because it was EV2 and could just have killed all of the Mega Blasters, and if he did that, he could maybe have prevent just some other scenarios would have happened, and either Zapdos was healthy enough to take the Scarf Crook at the end, or just he could have prevented Scully from speed passing entirely with Mega Guard. So all those little instances where it was like a little bit of 50-50s, he kind of lost them, and due to all those misplays racking up, he kind of got destroyed by the Scarf Crook in the end, which is really unfortunate. But I think something has to change for Merc, either his playing style, either his team. I think something has to change.
Yeah, I agree. Last week I said I want consistency from Merc and Shadi. Both of them will come out with a loss this week, which is why I do agree with you. I think that Merc last season as well hit the mid-season point, and then his season went downhill. I think he's got to avoid that tilt again this season. He's got to come into next week. He's got I think it's a pretty difficult game versus Cheese, I want to say. And if he comes out on top of that, he potentially could get his mojo back. But it's all about consistency, and he's lost a lot of momentum in that streak by losing this game this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and talking about consistency, where we have both Moxie and Fernip at our number 11 place, and that's mainly because like the first 3 weeks he had 3 solid wins. Like they were a little bit hexy, but still his team was shaping up pretty nicely, and now he's on a 2-game losing streak, and it's hurting him pretty hard. And as you saw this week, I think he just brought a little bit too much bulk to comfortably run every week. I think his team was just there was no real offensive pressure from the team, I felt, and I think that inevitably led to the letdown of the team, because he just got set up upon and just lost. Of course, Moxie is not Moxie if he does not have some great prep and some funny prep you will never see from other people, most likely, like Sunny Day, Weatherball, McAvin, so for Klefki, or just Facade, Lost Resort, Snorlax. I think those little things I really like about Moxie's playstyle, actually. But that's it. I hope he gets his mojo back.
Yeah, Moxie's been on a bit of a downscale this week. As a preview, you made a really good point about the fact that Moxie's team doesn't have enough offensive pressure. I think we draft Mega Venusaur, you've got to have those strong breakers around to complement it. I think the closest thing he had on his squad at that time to break was a Snorlax, which is not entirely great. And his draft, I think, has Necrozoma, Registeel, and Mega Venusaur in it, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And then that is just set up food at some point for this one specific mon. You think about those 3 mons and a Volcarona, like... That's the point. Moxie's team is slightly bulky, slightly too passive. I think we dropped a few things, maybe made some tweaks, some train changes, because I know there's some transfers coming up in the next coming weeks. Maybe he could perhaps get his mojo back and start winning. But I'll move on to David, because you've already talked about him, and then you could talk about Matty later. Now, David was an interesting one for me. I really like the way he played this week. There was only a few things I could critique about him. He got impatient a couple of times, and those times could have lost him the game. He popped his Salak too early. And tried to set up, and then wasted that gimmick on his Salamence. And also he popped his Z move well too early in the game as well, because he was getting impatient with the fact that it was a bulk war. Although he proved that he could wait it out in the long game and won the game overall, if he'd done that anyway, it would have been a much shorter game and a much less painful game and stressful game for him in the process, because he popped his Z move early and he popped his Salak slightly too early, and if he'd saved them slightly for the later game, played the bulk game a bit out a little bit further, played the field with the Klefki a little bit more as he was doing, he would have come out better. But that's the only thing I could pick on his performance this week.
Yeah, so for me at number 10, I have Maddie, and that's because, like you see this week, like for once he doesn't have a terrible matchup. He has actually a pretty nice matchup. He sees like all the different win cons, the trick room, the speed pass. He uses all of them in one team, combines them, plays towards those win cons, and he just flat out has a big victory. And I think that's the Maddie we used to know, and I hope to see more of it this season. And I still don't think Maddie will win a championship with this team. That's totally what I believe, but I think he can still finish off the season strongly, and maybe if he wants to and if he has the motivation, he will draft an actual team maybe next season, and he will do phenomenally. We don't know.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. We don't know what Matthew he's going. It's a bit of an interesting decision for him to go with the fun team this season, but it's all each their own. And if he wanted to have some fun, who's to say he shouldn't have it? Now, at number 9 this week is a bit of a surprise pick if you've known my the past couple of weeks. But we have the Tampa Bay Luxrays. Now, if we're talking about a downward scale, a bit of tilt, the Tampa Bay Luxrays team for you at this point in time, because they have come off a couple of rough losses. And now if you're looking at the overall schedule, are ranking as one of the lowest teams as in the actual overall schedules, if you want to check those out. Mono this week just completely did not his opponent. Now, Mono against Riz didn't play for the fact that Riz's team quite offensive. Mono's got a fairly bulky team with a good breaker, Mega Lopunny in the back, and a Reuniclus to set up. Now, what he could have done is worn out Riz's offense slowly and then potentially taken them out, except he let Clefable and Kieran Black do the work against his team. Now, Clefable with the Life Orb was a great win by Riz, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but Mono's just not playing like Mono. He's on a downward slope, and he needs to switch up to get some momentum in his favour quickly before he ends up getting relegated.
Yeah, for sure. So Normally I would go for my number 9, but because we actually have number 8 and number 9 swapped around, I will firstly talk about Mono because you just already mentioned him. So I think you make some pretty nice points actually, and just to add on that, when you look at Mono's prep compared to like some other prep we see in this league, it was pretty standard this week, and also that in a league like this can really hurt. And not only that, but also just in the match, he knew he did not do some calcing early on with like Toxic Packs when it just straight up died to a Thunder from Clefable. If he actually calced the damage, he knew that it had to be like a live op variant, because later in the game he knew from the damage he took it was defensive, but it had to have the live op to kill, and then he would probably not have made the play of SDing with Mimikyu, because he knew that the Clefable, because of the live op, would just flat out killing. So those little things I think really hurt him, and he mentioned it himself. So I think he will definitely change and he will definitely move forward. And the reason I have him above Trev is because Trev also this week had a bit of an off week. He's also 2-3. Previously Mono was ranked a little bit higher, so Mono is still a little bit higher for me. So moving into to Trev actually, which is my number 9, your number 8. Trev again, a little bit of an off week. Turn 1 made a bit of a miscalc on turn 2 and just let Scarf the Manton kill his Mega Gallade pretty early on, which was really huge for him actually. Then Volcarona misses an unfortunate Fire Blast, but that led to the demise of Volcarona. Well, he did not even have to risk Fire Blast miss because he had the Scarf, Sylvally Steel in the back, which could have easily taken a Bullet Punch and scared out Mega Scissor with a Flamethrower. So those I think small things really hurt him this whole match. And eventually it was only a 1-0. It was a pretty close game, but I think just some little things in this match, if he played a little bit differently, Trev would have come out on top, and that's just unfortunate that he didn't.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. I'll talk about Trev now because obviously our position changed now. Trev, I do believe, as I said in the weekly recap, had some good counters to Abe's team. I think he just didn't utilise them well enough. He did utilise them pretty well considering he lost his Mega Gallade very, very early in the game. A thing that Trev keeps doing, he keeps losing key vital ones early in games, and that's not going to help you because you're effectively playing with 5-1 straight away, or you are playing with 5-1 straight away. You've effectively just not prepped for one thing specifically by losing that. And then I think he still managed to use the counters that he had very effectively because that's why he got it down to a 1-0, but Abe just completely outplayed him in the game in terms of how to win the game, as Abe's been doing that entire season so far, looking really, really strong as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then moving over to our number 7, which is Rob Jr. And I think this week he had some pretty nice prep, but overall just a really Rob-like team, and that's just like he brought 4 quite bulky mons and then Thunderous and Hitmonlee to finish it off. And I think that's exactly what his team did. It kind of stalled out Shadi's team a little bit, racked up the toxic damage, racked up the damage he needs, make some crucial plays by knocking off with Thunderous on the incoming Nidoqueen, which actually was Scarf, and now it was in range of Z-Fly, so getting rid of that early on opened up the door for Thunderous and also for the Hitmonlee, because one fighting was just gone. So I think that was definitely really nice on his part. The only small smitter is that I think every time he has brought it, and he brought it most of the time, he brings like bulky SD Scissor. So I hope he will switch some things around and bring like Choice Bandit or Scarf one time, but it might be getting a little bit too predictable. But again, if it works, it works.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. I want to see that Metrogus Sizzle. Rob, if you're listening. No, I'm joking. No, Rob. I'm appreciating Rob. Rob's like the steady Eddie of the season. Pretty consistent results. Doing pretty well in games, playing well, losing some, winning some. Fair enough. He played a really good game this week against Shadi. Rob's finite little technical prep points was very, very good. He probably was aware that Primarina was very good against Shadi's team, but he probably knew that Shadi would prep for it a lot. He knew that Shadi got absolutely beat down by one of his mocks early on in the season, so we brought a Scarf Hitmonlee just to check with that, because Shadi's fighting weakness. Shadi's fighting checks aren't the greatest, considering one of them is Latios, and he gets knocked out, in which case he's able to deal with that really, really early on in the game as well. So Scarf Hitmonlee was a really, really good bring in my opinion because of what he knew about the way his team works. Now, That's a little technical point from Rob. You're starting to impress me in the late game, Rob. Maybe a little dark horse playoffs, but you've got to try and push to get that spot because there's some good players ahead of you there, Rob.
Yeah, so moving on to one of those players at number 6, we have Rizipa in the Phoenix Sunflowers. So I think he is one of those dark horses you were talking about, because he had some pretty rough seasons. I think the past 2 seasons especially, but I think this season he is doing pretty great actually. He's now at 3-2. And again this week against Mono, who we ranked pretty high for the last few weeks, he had a pretty solid win, and I think he just played and mostly out-prepped Mono by a fair bit, and I think that really helped his win. I think the live op Clefairy was pretty nice, killing off like the toxic packs, and also in the late game putting in a tremendous amount of work, and then just having that Q room to like finish off the game. I think it was pretty solid, and yeah, it was just a really solid game by Riz.
Yeah, again, I'm loving Riz this season. He's playing really well. Now, you said before there's a lot of players in front of him he could be coming up against. No, he could be in competition for playoffs with as well. I said a couple of weeks ago he's a dark horse player. I think he's going to do it, and I would love nothing more than Riz to go and take an NPL title. As much as the memes would go absolutely insane, the comment sections would go insane. Riz has got the caliber of play this season to do it. He seems really comfortable with his team, and he gets some good results with it. So if he keeps doing what he's doing, I don't see any reason as to why Riz can't take it all the way and give anyone a good game this season, because he's prepping really well and he's playing really well, and that could be one of the shock moments of the season, is Riz potentially in playoffs. So if he keeps going as consistently for the remaining weeks of the season, he might be a shoo-in for a fair, decent playoff bet.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on to our top 5, or rounding it off, are the Tampa Bay Frogadiers. So Vert this week had a pretty rough loss. It was only a 1-0 against Jolt. It was really close. He's still 3-2. He's still in a pretty nice spot for playoffs for sure. And I think this week, like, I can talk, I think, almost an hour about this game, because it was a really amazing game, but also there was a lot of things going on, some small hacks, some small misplays, and all those things. I think definitely watch Vert side, watch Jolt side to really gain the exact insight for this match. But mostly I think Vert, a little bit of some hacks against him, but I don't think that was too much. I think it was mainly that he kind of misplayed around certain mons, especially Superior. He just Jolt played it phenomenally, but Vert did not take into account the Scarf Superior until it was too late, mainly, and I think that mainly costed him the game. I think if he just preserved some mons a little bit differently, which he actually could quite well do, he could have definitely taken this game home, but he unfortunately did not. And I think this is was also in Vert's other loss. It's mainly that he just makes some small misplays, or just overthinks too much, or just does not consider one thing, and then it ends. It is that one set he did not expect, and I think that's the only thing that has to change for Vert. I think his prep is really on point. Most of the time he plays pretty fine, but if he can get rid of those small misplays, I think Vert takes it all the way.
Fair enough, I do entirely agree with you. From helping Vert prep for this game, I know how much he wanted that Arcanine set to work. It was a beautiful set and a great bring for an easy counter to his Omega Beedrill. Now, it's an interesting game, as you said, because the hacks in the early game does sort of matter in terms of the late game, in terms of how much his Beedrill got worn down on the rocks, etc., and the Toxic on the Arcanine. But also, Jolt's excellent bringing Scarf Superior counters that, because Scarf Superior really did a good job in cleaning up the end game, and Vert didn't have many counters to it once the Arcanine was worn down to a significant amount. So it's a bit of a 50-50 way up either way. You can't really theory him on this game, and that just proves how good each of the preps were. We've got Jolt on top probably because he won the game in hindsight, but Vert has done an excellent job this week coming up against Jolt. Again, there's another little moment of hacks as well. There's a crit on the Jirachi, if people didn't know. That meant a crit from the Jirachi on the Beedrill. It would have meant that the Beedrill would have taken another hit. That's eloquently explained in Vert's video if you want to go and check that out, because I do suggest watching both sides of this video, this battle, to see how in-depth this game goes. It's an amazing game. Make sure you check it out. But I guess I might as well just round it off by talking about Jolt, because that's my one above. That's my number 4. I've got Jolt above Vert and below Abe. Those 4, like Abe, Cheese, Vert, Jolt, and Abe, Cheese, Verd, and Joel all in that mix. Could be any of the top spaces, but I think we've gone for something very, very similar. Joel has been playing slightly better after a couple of rough weeks. He's got 2 good wins under his belt in the last 2 weeks. A good one against Verd as well with a Scar Superior cleaning up at the end game. Proves how good Jolt's game management is, leaving that till the end and getting in his game plan of wearing the Arcanine down, then just sweeping up with Leaf Storms. He hit 5 Leaf Storms in a row. Who does that? What a lord. But otherwise, Jolt played a really good game. And hacks happens. Also commendable for the fact that neither of them offered a restart. I like that because they played it how the game went. Potentially, if they'd offered a restart, it could have gone a completely different way. But I like the way how the game turned out, and that's a really good play on both of their part. But your number 4 is Abe, and then you can sort on Brian's.
Yeah, so I will cover them pretty much together. I think that's pretty nice to do. So first, Jolt, I think you covered it pretty nicely. I think the matchup might not have been in his favor that much, but he just saw that like win con of Superior, but he also knew that it was quite a stretch because there was an Arcanine, even a Mega Beedrill, and he knew he had the mons to wear them down, to like lure them in, even get some Toxic off on Arcanine. And I really liked the way he prepped and approached that game and just executed it. And I think that whole plan, you don't see it work at least often, but also just pulling it off is really fun, is really great, and that's why I have Jolt at number 3, just slightly above Abe, who also played a pretty nice game this week, and also came out on top in a pretty close 1-0. But I think it was just a little bit less convincing than Jolt's win, and also I think the Volcarona, the Fire Blast miss on the Mega Scissor also helped Abe pretty immensely actually, and I think that's pretty much it.
I do agree. I think just talking about Abe, the reason I've got him sort of mid number 3 is because I see consistency in Abe's results this season. He's had a very, very good season all the way through. He played a good opponent, Trev, and okay, there was some misses and Trev choked a little in the first early turns, but Abe just did what he needed to win the game, and that's at the end of the day all you need to do. He came up in team preview against a really difficult matchup, and he came through as a victor, and that shows how well he played. But now our top 2 has been for the last couple of weeks. Phoenix Sunken and Cheese, you can talk a little bit about him first.
Yeah, so Cheese, we were already mentioning dark horses, but I think the biggest of them all, I think everyone knows, is Cheese. Nobody expected him to do so great, and he just flat out does it. This week against Stoke, it was a pretty close game. Like Mega Marvel was really a big threat, but he managed some of his offense pretty nicely. Like the Tailwind Swallow really helped him out because the momentum was into Mega Marvel to even heal it up. Also was pretty scary for him. But he managed it pretty nicely, and in the end, getting that Raikou to clean up, I believe Raikou is doing pretty nicely as one of the kill leaders even. I don't know by heart, but I think Cheese is doing great with that mon. I think the only thing, and it was also commented by Jolt, Cheese mentioned something about safety goggles, that it had like no use, why don't you use lefties, but he just totally forgot that safety goggles was for Spore and not for weather. So Cheese, I know you don't have many Gen 7 experience, but this item has been around some more time, so definitely look up your items if you don't know exactly what they do.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. Slight dig in there, but otherwise we're all good. Again, Cheese is proving a lot of people sort of wrong, but sort of what do you expect? He was a finalist before in the NPL with a fanfy. So no fanfy this time, a slightly more dignified team on his part. He's got the big man, the Don fan. Perhaps this Don fan is going to take him to victory this season. You never know. But aside from the Ethereum winning, he played an excellent game. His team is really, really, really well synergized together. It gels together so nicely in terms of the way he plays with it and the way he builds with it. It's a lovely example of balance in the format alongside a mega that people don't necessarily take as one of the best megas in the format. But he's using it really well. Again, he's using Raikou, which is like, again, an undervalued electric that people don't usually pick up and it's often overlooked. Cheese is just making things look really nice with some great prep. Okay, he played Toad this week, but I mean, a win's a win, and Toad is still a high caliber player no matter what his form is. So fair play to Cheese. But again, number 1, the 6-0 King, the Gypsy King is coming in at number 1 for both of us. It's a pretty self-explanatory. You got a 6-0. It was over Razor, fair enough. But it shows you can't do anything. You can't make that one slip up against Gypsy, especially when you bring a team that offensive. As you did mention, the Mienshao potentially could have high jump kicked or beaten down the Celestina enough so it was in range of priority. But again, I still thought that there was no way coming back from Razor once Celestino had beat down some of his team, because the matchup just wasn't in his favour.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we have to talk too much about it. I think Gypsy just saw the opportunity, took it, came home with a big victory, and we will just see if he can keep up this status, because he and Cheese are the only teams with only one loss this season, and we still have like 5 weeks to go. So I'm really looking forward how everything will play out. We're moving slowly but surely towards those playoffs, and I definitely think we have some really nice weeks to come, because everyone will be fighting for those playoff spots, because everyone is really close. There are a lot of 3-2 and 2-3 teams, so everything can be flipped in 2 weeks time. I think we are now at number 15 even, can in 2 weeks be at number 4, we don't know. Everything's really close this season, and I really like that about the season. It makes the power rankings harder, but I definitely like all the games there way more.
Yeah, it's going to be a great end to the season, but this is going to be a great end to the episode. Again, we have to say thank you for all the support we're getting on the episode, as well as all the coaches, on behalf of all the coaches, the support they're getting on their videos. Make sure you go check them out. As always, leave your lists in the description below, as we are always happy to read and go through all the comments that we get on this video. If you've got anything else to say?
Yeah, just check out all the coaches, and if you have checked out all the coaches, then on Tuesday there are also minor matches, and both the major PR analysts are now also in the minors, and we actually play this Tuesday, so check that out.
So yeah, make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out Battle of the Analysts, the slightly more experienced versus the Turbo. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the episode. Yes. Make sure you tune into our game on Tuesday. No, I'm joking. Make sure you tune into all the coaches that are coming up for the games this weekend. That's us out.
Yeah.